Good afternoon, it's Thursday, December 24. I'm Anthony Lugg with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Samples from the 20 passengers who arrived in the island from the UK on Monday and tested positive for COVID-19 will be sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency CARPHA for testing today. The tests are expected to determine whether the new strain of COVID-19 has been detected. Of the 302 passengers who arrived in Jamaica from the UK on Monday, 20 of them have tested positive for COVID-19. The Ministry of Health says further testing will be done to determine if any of them had contracted the new strain of the coronavirus. Starting today, the ministry says samples will be sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency CARPHA to test for the new variant. But the results may take some time, as Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Besesa McKenzie says there is no definite turnaround time.
We don't have a turnaround time as yet. The process may take a couple of days. Initially we would have we're sending off 14 samples because we needed to try to meet a flight tomorrow. So we had to submit those samples that we could submit early. So 14 are definitely going off tomorrow. And then the balance will be going off next week, along with some other samples that we're going to be doing some back sampling of some of the samples that we had before. We're going to pull some of those to test as well.
However, not all samples will be tested.
There will be a process, though, to determine the suitability of the samples for genetic sequencing. So not all 20 samples may eventually be tested because there has to be a certain viral load for the samples to be suitable for genetic sequencing. So we await that to see how many of the samples are suitable, and as soon as we get any information, we will update the public.
As for the other passengers who tested negative for COVID-19, they were transferred from state to home quarantine on Wednesday. The Health Ministry says they have been fitted with armbands and will be closely monitored by health teams and the police as they complete their mandatory 14-day quarantine.
It is very, very important that these persons adhere to the restrictions of quarantine, that they stay at home, they wear their mask even while in home, they practice physical distancing as much as possible and avoid any crowding. Even if that crowding is inside the home, they should stay away because it is important that persons realize that the virus has a 14-day incubation period, and any time during that incubation period, you can become symptomatic, and you will need to be tested again at that time.
And Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Besesa McKenzie says the Health Ministry has taken note of the number of parishes responsible for the recent spike in COVID-19 cases. Dr. Besesa McKenzie says cases are rising in the southern parishes of Manchester, St. Elizabeth and Clarendon.
Where it is that from Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, those usually brighten up on our map, in terms of where the positive cases are and the increase. Now we're seeing a parish like Manchester that is also coming up high, in terms of numbers. So we're definitely seeing right across the country that there's an increase in the number of cases.
To date, Clarendon has recorded 574 cases of COVID-19, Manchester 533, and St. Elizabeth 365. COVID-19 has claimed 2 more lives in Jamaica, increasing the death toll to 292. The latest cases involve an 89-year-old man from St. Anne and a 76-year-old man from Trelawney. The Trelawney man's death was previously under investigation. The country's COVID-19 case count now stands at 12,519. 96 new cases were confirmed yesterday. Their ages range from 2 months to 81 years. The Health Ministry says 79 patients remain hospitalized, 8 are in critical condition. The curfew imposed on central Clarendon has been extended, with the security forces continuing to maintain a strong presence in communities such as Effortville. But amidst the ongoing security measure is an appeal from the Political Directorate to private landowners and housing developers to look at Clarendon as the next location to develop formal communities. Prince Moore has the details.
The curfew imposed on central Clarendon has brought much-needed relief to the residents. especially those living in Effortville. Head of Operations in the Clarendon Police Division, Superintendent Christopher Phillips, says there have been no shootings or murders in the Effortville community since the curfew started last Friday. But despite the relative success of the short-term security measure, Member of Parliament Mike Henry believes the long-term fix to the crime in communities like Effortville is to address informal settlements. He wants residents in and around Effortville to get the chance to live in structured communities and has therefore called on housing developers to step up.
Let's get things together. Let's seek to get the private developers who own lands around us, right, to be encouraged. And then when we encourage to build houses, if we're going to move into an area, there's going to be crime and violence. So you yourself have to help me to set the stage by which we can create opportunities and new areas.
The Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, agrees. He saw firsthand the terrain and housing arrangements in parts of Effortville. These conditions, he says, give gangs an advantage over security forces and law-abiding residents.
The police have a tough time in these areas. It is difficult for the law-abiding citizens outside of come to understand the challenge the police face in these areas. If they drive, they are at risk because the vehicles can't go beyond a certain pace. If they walk, they're at risk, they can't see anything. But the development of informal settlements is a part of what we're initiated by the Ministry of Housing. The government still has an eye on it, but there's a lot of them in Jamaica. We're looking at almost 25% of the population living in informal settlements. But it's a challenge we have to get to because in the long term, that's what's going to resolve a lot of these social dysfunction.
The curfew in central Clarendon is set to expire this evening at 6 p.m. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news. The police have found the mother of the baby who was abandoned last week at the Coronation Market in downtown Kingston. This was confirmed by Communications Officer for the Jamaica Constabulary Force Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay. The story attracted national attention after the baby was found on December 14. SSP Lindsay gave an update yesterday while speaking on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines.
We have identified a young lady that is suspected to be the mother of the child. We are just awaiting DNA verification to proceed forward. But from all indication, she is the mother unless DNA suggests otherwise. So she was located. We got some information, and she was located. She's a young mother, and she has a family. So family and the police have met with her mother and other relatives and so on. So they are now going through the process, awaiting the DNA results to see how they should treat the case.
The local government ministry is providing relief supplies to 30 people who were left homeless following a fire in West Kingston yesterday. The fire razed premises at Love Lane and Church Street. Local government minister Desmond McKenzie says the affected persons will be provided with basic supplies to help them get through the next few days.
It is going to pose a challenge in terms of putting back a roof over the area at this time. But at least whatever we can do in the meantime to alleviate some of the challenges that they are facing, we are committed to do that, and we have started the process already.
Mr. McKenzie said it was unfortunate that the fire took place just before Christmas. He's also concerned about the children who have been left homeless.
You know, it's unfortunate that I have a constituency that during this period of time, you know, I'm plagued by fire. It is the first we're having since the Christmas season, you know, and I was just keeping my fingers crossed to see if we could have gone through the holiday without any fire. But unfortunately, you know, it didn't really work out. But as I said before, I am concerned because there are youngsters, young children in the group, and you know, we have been trying to see if we could get persons who are nearby, you know, to facilitate some of them.
And TVJ News understands that Mr. McKenzie is scheduled to visit the area later today. Students and teachers of some Clarendon schools are in support of plans for more face-to-face classes in January. Our news team spoke with some parents and teachers during the last few days of this semester. O'Shane Masters reports.
Students of Central High School in Clarendon seen here hanging out at the park in Maypen. It's been a while since they got together like this. The students said that they were going home after having a practical at their school. Some were back at school for 3 days, others for just a day. But they were all there long enough to be reminded of one thing. They prefer face-to-face learning over online lessons.
For me now, online, anytime if you go on it not always keep me out. It does now make me go to and me way back, me I tell you. But me just go and catch up from me friend them thing. Friend them just send me what they do. And me just go and catch up because I now work.
One of the students said she is just not ready for the next grade.
To be honest, I'm not a really fast learner. So today is my first day at school actually. And school has been closed today, so I haven't get any work today. But online has been really horrible for me. So I think I'm going to do a repeat for grade 10 because I don't want to really leave school and don't have what subject I want.
Her classmate is, however, aware whether plans to reopen more schools could be put on pause in a minute.
I don't know how it will go yet because if something come up more, it have to go put off again. Because the place infected, you cannot go in the same way.
Younger students are also looking ahead to the next school term in January with hope that it will not be disrupted by COVID-19. One student of a Four Paths primary and junior high has her safety routine memorized for when she eventually sees her friends.
I tell her this is still Corona time and just because the school is opening, we still have to maintain the social distancing and those things.
This mother says she has noticed differences in how children perform.
Most of the students they tend to drop back because you have some children who is a visual learner, also an auditory learner. So they will fit into the physical environment. And I'm feeling happy about my child going to come at the school, to return to school in January.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
2 men were injured when a truck laden with dirt overturned on Spanish Town Road in the vicinity of Seaview Gardens. The incident happened about 7:30 this morning. TVJ News understands that the truck was traveling in a westerly direction from 3 miles heading towards Spanish Town when it overturned. Eyewitnesses told TVJ News that the driver of the truck reacted quickly after the accident by doing a head count of the men who were on the truck. It was discovered that one man was buried under the dirt. His colleagues responded by using bare hands to dig him from under the rubble. Persons on the scene said the man appeared to be shaken but did not seem to be seriously hurt. Another man who was thrown from the truck had a broken leg. They were taken to hospital and are believed to be in stable condition. In news overseas, millions of people across Latin America could potentially be vaccinated against COVID-19 on Thursday as countries like Chile, Costa Rica, and Mexico announced that Christmas Eve would be the first day of vaccination in their respective territories. More from the CNN.
This Christmas Eve is set to be a day of hope for millions of Latin Americans fighting against the coronavirus on the front line. There are 3 countries that have already announced, 3 Latin American countries that are already announced they will commence vaccination campaigns on Thursday, on Christmas Eve. What a better Christmas present than the vaccine finally available in Mexico, Costa Rica and Chile. But also good news coming out of Argentina, which on Wednesday approved for emergency use the Russian vaccine, the Sputnik 5 vaccine, and the first doses have left Moscow late on Wednesday night. They were on their way to Buenos Aires, and according to the Argentinian Health Ministry, they will start their own vaccination campaign very, very soon. Good news also, perhaps silver linings coming out of Brazil as well. On Wednesday, the Butantan Institute, the institute in Brazil responsible for developing the vaccine in a joint venture with Sinovac, the Chinese company, has released early data saying that their vaccine is safe and effective enough to apply for emergency use authorization, and they will expect these emergency use to be granted in a couple of weeks' time. If that happens, is yet another weapon in the hands of health workers and administrators in the fight against the virus, a fight that at the same time is relentless, because the virus is still making inroads, not just in these countries, but also in countries such as Peru, Colombia. It will be the mark of this Christmas, the coronavirus, but hopefully the vaccines are coming and coming in force.
To news in sports now, head coach of the Reggae Girls, Hubert Busby, has expressed delight to news that the CONCACAF will have 4 full spots for the 2023 World Cup qualifiers next year. This is an increase from 3.5 spots to 4 from the 2019 World Cup qualifying cycle. This comes as FIFA has expanded the Women's World Cup from 24 to 32 teams. In addition to the 4 automatic spots, the 5th and 6th place teams in the region will head to the Intercontinental Playoffs. Busby described this move as beneficial to the region.
World Cup expanding to 32 teams is great for the growth of the sport, and obviously providing more countries the opportunity to play at the highest level and compete at the highest level. Overall, the additional slot from CONCACAF, I think, is warranted as well, as is the opportunity through a possible playoff to get to the World Cup. I think it's just beneficial to the growth of the game, and definitely benefits those teams within our region as well.
Each confederation has seen an increase in slots except Oceania, who will remain with 1. This is because New Zealand, who will co-host the tournament with Australia, who is a member of the OFC. The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup qualifiers is set to commence in late 2021. The Reggae Girls qualified for the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France in October 2018 after finishing 3rd in the CONCACAF's Women's Championships. And that's the midday news. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.